In fact, let's take a closer look at the auctioning of Park Plaza Mall set for today.
But before we look forward, it does help to take a look back at the history of the mall. So this morning we're doing that by talking to a man who's been there from the beginning.
And we mean very beginning. Of course, it's THV11's own Craig O'Neill.
It was 1958. I was 7 years old. My dad taking us to church in West Little Rock. He made a left off Markham onto the newly paved University Avenue, and I looked to my right, and land was being cleared away by heavy equipment. And this is what it became. Park Plaza Shopping Center opened in 1960, a two-story open-air center that was West Little Rock's first major shopping center. This began the erosion of shoppers from downtown Little Rock. Park Plaza had everything: groceries. You could go bowling downstairs, visit a cafeteria upstairs, or use your paper route money to go into Crank's drugstore and buy your family Christmas gifts. But in 1967, this happened, University Mall, and it was Park Plaza's turn to watch shopper migration. For close to 20 years, they limped along, knowing they had to do something. That brings us to this, the tuxedo I wore on that day in 1988. I actually bought tuxedo shorts to go with it because I wore it in July of 1988, when I emceed the opening of Park Plaza Mall. 3 floors of popular mainstream stores, a shopper's destination, and it became a focal point for community events from health fairs to magnet school fairs to growing angel trees and meeting Santa Claus and even can constructions for the food bank. It was here a future president went to the movies. It was a place entrenched in the collective memory of Arkansans statewide, including Lance Turner.
You know, I remember coming here as a high school student a lot on field trips, and this would be our favorite place, our choice place to come for lunch.
As editor of Arkansas Business, he can also recall when Park Plaza's financial challenges began. 2008, the Great Recession.
And so retailers began to have a tougher go of it in terms of paying for their commercial space and making revenue and all of those kinds of things to make a viable business, and that affected malls.
Then came Amazon and online shopping and security issues, and adding to the pressure of the pandemic, the mall ownership bubble burst.
And so they got to a point where they couldn't make the payment. They missed a mortgage payment.
Park Plaza is now in foreclosure. But with Dillard's not going anywhere, Turner feels these aren't the end times.
The mall mix is going to change, but I think a lot of the elements that we see today are still going to remain. It's just going to look a lot different.
So different from the 80s and 90s. It now becomes a 404,000 square foot monument to the one sure thing in all our lives: change.
When it comes to business, nostalgia can play a role, but really what's going to matter is what pays the rent.
Arkansas Business has been following the Park Plaza troubles for years. Editor Lance Turner joins us now. Now, the big takeaway, as we talked about and heard a little bit in that package from Craig, this doesn't necessarily mean the mall is going to close.
Right. I think, whatever happens today, the mall's going to remain open. A closed mall is not a very valuable mall to the person that owns it. And so they have a vested interest in keeping it going throughout whatever transition will take place. And so, I think what could happen next is how whoever becomes in possession of this mall is probably going to reinvest a little bit in it.
Okay.
The big piece of this here is you've got Dillard's. That owns its own property on that property and has a vested interest in making sure that mall works. And so that's going to be a huge factor going forward with whoever takes over possession of this property. And so they want to make sure that it happens and works well. And so I think you can see it's like we've talked about, these malls are in transition, all of them. New tenants, new ways of thinking about how to use that space, and I think that's in the future for Park Plaza, certainly.
Well, are there still other malls too that seem to be thriving outside of what we're seeing here in Little Rock?
We're seeing people build new. They're not quite malls, but they are mall-type structures, and people are reimagining how you do those. You see outdoor-type malls, things like the Promenade. We're seeing new retail construction in Jonesboro, where they're taking the site of the old Indian Mall and transforming it into a new space. And
that's
you're seeing
a big area too.
That's right. And you're seeing a lot of local companies that are being able to backfill in mall space, where local companies felt like they got chased out by malls a long time ago. Well, now a lot of them are coming back to some of those mall areas and able to take on that space as they reimagine what a mall looks like. And so it's just sort of the ebb and flow of how retail is working right now, and just the formula is going to change. It's going to be different because of all the economic pressures that are happening, but I think there's definitely a future for that property on University. That's such a key corridor for business. You know, the thought that it's not going to be there is a little unrealistic, I think.
Sure.
So.
All goes full circle. All right, Lance, thank you very much. We're going to see you Arkansas Business Headlines in just a few minutes.